One thing it's actually I didn't like we need to these are all redundant, so it's incorrect, and then we have these images that
Yeah, and then these two buttons, I fixed them. I can push them at the in the fix card. The style is broken, and then those redundant information. Okay, I I did not check the review the content or anything.
yeah, that's fine. Just
Hello.
what's up, Chief?
Oh, nice day. Little bit windy, but nice. What's up?
You look like a prophet now. Just like if they are making a movie about like Abraham, you can just be that, or like Moses or someone. Just like come down with like the thing. Just
Yeah. I'm getting older and whiter.
wiser.
Yeah.
How's the weather in Split?
Not so much good.
Yes.
Still not hot as hell, so still not swimming. I hope next week will be okay.
Have the Germans showed up yet?
Not much German, but there is a lot of how to say young drunk English people.
Oh, okay. Just wait a couple of more minutes. Eric,
Hello.
how you doing?
Good.
One more minute. Then get started. Mladen, on your side in Split, do you think we are in a position that actually like you and maybe Andrea or someone else wants to like try that? Because right now, and today we're gonna talk about it, we're kind of ready to pass on some of the scripts that we created and even some like AI agents to show how to grab this data and just put there and just assign. What we need is to kind of get some sort of a commitment of a group to just say these are us, these are the addresses, and then basically how much time we want to spend. So we allocate the number of root SIDs we talk about, which are the properties. Like we have around 20 million right now, which is like almost California. But again, we can just start with a subset and just try it to see if it's something we want to do. But do you think those guys they're gonna participate?
Yeah, me and Andrea was speaking about that, but in USA, in Croatia, it's not possible. There is not how to say public data. I can get mine, he can get his, but we cannot get.
No, so initially what we're gonna do, it's gonna be US, which is public. So we'll get US, you guys can actually mine those, and then gradually we're gonna go international. And even international, we do it like phased. Probably gonna do Canada and then like Israel, and then open it up to everywhere else. But this is just to do the California. You guys, we allocate you basically the slots for California to basically you, Andrea, and just we need one more person. I don't know. Have you talked to Pitar? He participated. He might Pitar.
No.
No.
Maybe Dennis. Anyway, why don't we
Dennis showed up in the actually like And the reason it doesn't need to be those guys, but since actually they're all in Croatia, that makes it easier. Well, we'll talk about it a little bit more. Okay, let's get started. So couple of things. Consider everything that we have is basically is alpha right now. Like you started putting everything out there. So basically it's just move a little bit from the theory and conversation into actually things that exist. So the Elephant XYZ, the alpha version of our website is up and running. We are putting all the links in there, but it's actually something that you can start taking a look. And the rest of the cosmetic stuff is gonna follow. But more importantly, this is something that it's gonna actually be available to you guys. I want to kind of walk you through. This is step by step what basically needs to happen to ultimately start mining and getting the data on the chain as part of the process. So the way it's gonna work, as I mentioned to Mladen, we're gonna get groups of actually oracles to start collaborating, and we want that to be kind of ahead of time in the first inception. Eventually it's going to be open up because there are going to be critical mass and people posting. You don't really need to actually know about another oracle, but right now it is actually critical because what's going to happen if you do not have the 3 oracles, you're going to do all the work and just the data is going to sit there because there's no consensus being reached. So we need to basically do that. So Mladen, if you figure out those guys, if they want to participate, will basically what we need is their kind of the EOAs, their addresses for the wallets that they have. So we allocate those specific records to them. Eric, on your side, do you have anybody else? Do you want us to, since you're in US, do you want us to basically kind of nominate? You can collaborate with with some of us and help you. But if you have like buddies and everything else, that might work because you get the knowledge from us. We are putting all of our code and just basically a walkthrough, so it's available to you. That way you can just get someone that you know.
Sure. I'm not sure. Basically, I haven't asked anybody, just given my understanding, because I don't feel like I could explain it. So it's possible, or it's
Okay.
possibly possible. I'm also, fine working with whoever. If there's like a Slack or something, we could see who gels. That's fine too.
Yeah. Okay. So right now it's actually we can like if Mladen and Andrea and then you guys can become. It's going to be a little bit tougher because they're in Europe from a time zone perspective. But just, this is a global world, so we'll be able to do that. So we'll figure out by the end of the call. Maybe we start from that point. So what we are doing is after we identify the oracle, we are assigning these oracle to basically to a series of what we call a root CID. So what we've done, we took every single property in California, their parcel identifier, their addresses, and actually information about which county they are in. And basically we have put that in IPFS, and we are assigning individual oracles to every single one of these roots. So if you're assigned to 1,000 root CID, that means there are 1,000 properties for you to basically mine and actually mint. We can go to the entire California. That's basically it's not there, but just we can start smaller. So the first step after you guys provide those information is we are going to give you this Elephant CLI, which basically it is in our GitHub. So the GitHub and is open. It's in public. It's elephant-xyz. So I'll send these information to you guys. So basically there's a CLI called Elephant CLI that pretty much govern this entire process except couple of steps. So the Elephant CLI, it is really our cheat sheet for you guys. Every single thing, because it's open, you can just go do your own, but this is the fastest way to be able to transfer knowledge, which is how do I basically query the smart contract and be able to retrieve the information related to these actually the root sets from Polygon. So basically it's already, the code is already there. You can just basically run it using your EOA. After you basically get those basically the initial information, you extract the parcel data, which I mentioned is actually the parcel ID, addresses, and the county. And then the team has done a little bit of work. We have two sources that it's going to be actually on the and here you see the AI agent and the county scraper. These are two different independent actually code base. One is an intelligent AI agent that you can actually use or basically use as a framework to see how you can provide just basically a set of parcel identifier, a set of actually and the county for each parcel, and basically it goes do a search, figure out which website has these information, scrape the website, translate that actually into the specific schema, and bring it down. So it's basically using kind of intelligent agent framework. And another one is the county scraper, which is we showed a sample script that we did for one of the counties in Florida, how to actually take the data down. So it's basically it's going to be available for you guys to take a look. And this is where basically here you're gonna run this either the AI agent or the scraper. And these two things, as I mentioned, is basically is for sample. You don't need to use any of the things that we are providing. You can write your own. You can just use it as actually as a starting point. But you can basically do everything that is on the left on your own. And ultimately, at the end, what you would do is basically you would generate a set of I would call it actually the data elements that is in this actually the schema, and the schema is basically is something that it does exist inside IPFS as well. So for each property, there is a group of data that it's actually we're gonna mint. And the group of data, the schema for that is on IPFS. So you can take that down and just add it to your intelligent agent and basically map the data automatically to that. When that's done, and now for every single one of those root sets, you do have basically the data that you have bring down from the county. You just run the Elephant CLI with that as an input. And the job of the Elephant CLI is actually a couple of things. Number one is basically put your data, put it on the IPFS, and generate the hash and the SID associated to that. Look for that specific actually root and see if other oracles they actually posted the information. Bring it down into your system and do a comparison. If the hashes match, basically it gives you a report to just say nothing to worry about. If the hashes did not match, you're gonna basically get a report in a sense that say these are the things that it's actually did not match. There is a possibility that actually the other oracles they're not done for their part, so there is nothing to do the comparison. You can inside inside the CLI identify and just point it to a webhook so you get notification. For now, the approach is just CLI, you're running it. You're running it on your local, on your server, whatever they have, and you do a little bit of a coordination with the other oracles. So when you guys start, you start at the same time. So very quickly, you reach consensus versus just do it asynchronously. That is to just kind of expedite. And then if you didn't reach consensus, you look at the report, you just basically go back, make the modification. The problem might be on the raw data that you downloaded, probably less feasible, or it might be inside the mapping that you've done. You make those adjustments. Again, you run the CLI, it posts the data, just repeat itself until the consensus is reached. And then when that actually reach, ultimately the final version of that, it is in the smart contract. So, and you can basically see that and check it. That is the time that at this point, we have everything that is needed to, when we release basically the reward token that we have, which the name of it is Mahout, we come back and through a new or updated smart contract to start allocating it. The token is not created yet, but we want to actually get this process going to become familiar with it. And then when the token is there, if you have reached consensus or tens of thousands of records or even millions of records, the corresponding actually token, it will be allocated to you guys. And then because your address is associated to these root, all the future gas, it can be actually allocated to you guys. And the future gas, as last time we talked about, is generated based on this data being transacted, which is there's no new additional update is added associated to this data, not about mainly about the groups that you put in, but the groups that they're more transactional. So really at the end of the day, you have two to three tools that you need to have. Number one, the most important thing, you need to actually have a wallet or this EOA number. You need to talk to a couple of other basically oracles, in this case Mladen, Eric, and Andrea. Since you guys basically showed interest, you're here, you can just start with that and then see how it's actually come together. Take a look at this Elephant CLI. This is being updated. I will send you a note when it's actually ready for consumption in the next day or two. Take a look at the AI agents. These are good examples. These are not like ready to execute things. These are basically more a prototype for you guys to see how you need to think about and what is the nature of data. So analyzing these is going to be pretty useful, and that gives you the starting point. We're going to create a Slack channel. We're going to actually add you guys into that. Eventually, we open it up to a Discord and just basically have a little bit more open. But for now, it can be basically targeted in Slack. You can ask questions. I'll be there. Mykyta's be there. The rest of the team, they're there in case some people need help, and just we'll get it going. As I mentioned, this information, we are putting it into the Elephant XYZ. They're going to be actually in the public folder. 2 of them is already there. The Elephant CLI, we are actually adding it as we speak. I think this is the progress we made so far from a platform perspective. I would say you should count for start spending time this weekend. You'll be at the point that even right now you can start looking at the agents, the code that it's there, and just get your pieces in place. Get your wallet IDs and basically your teammates, send it to us, and then we start basically preparing the California data set and assign it to you guys, and go from there. And then if any of the team members, they haven't showed up here and you think they might be interested, just reach out to them and explain this. These are open. We'll make it available. You guys can be the promoter as well, and just start the process that way. Any questions? Any comment, Mykyta? Anything I missed before you just jump in and quickly show some of the more practical things in terms of how this thing represents itself on the blockchain? Just for demo purposes, the video we can actually share with you guys and just send it to other folks. So that's why we are sharing material and just a pointer to the material so they can follow along. If there's no question, I would actually hand this off to Mykyta to quickly show kind of practical examples of smart contract, how these actually allocation exists, more more the mechanics of actually blockchain and how you need to query the blockchain while it's embedded inside the Elephant CLI, and just it does some of those things. But we want to show you how open it is, because you can just go write all of these things yourself and just ignore our Elephant CLI and just do it yourself. But everything that you see on the bottom of this fishbone, these are all public, trustless, access to everyone. The Polygon, the county website, we talked about it. The IPFS, IPFS open file-based data store. And basically, the only way IPFS becomes useful is obviously looking at the smart contract, and the smart contract, as part of the Elephant CLI, we give you the address to the smart contract for you to be able to look at it. But Mykyta, let's actually kind of jump in a little bit, talk about the mechanics of the blockchain and how these CIDs and assignments look like.
Yeah, sure. First, I wanted to ask a question, Mladen, Eric. Has any of you guys had previously any experience with blockchain hands-on, maybe as a asset holder, maybe as an engineer, so I can understand and how deep I need to go?
The asset, not much, really long time ago, just some bitcoins and some other things. And I was working with the blockchain, but it was 6 or 7 years ago. So,
I've avoided crypto and the blockchain like the plague until today.
nice.
Okay, I see. Okay, then I will try to go from the very basics. And what I will show you right now is kind of deep inside what happens on the blockchain, what happens specifically on the smart contract. And we will start from, so what I'm showing right now is a Polygon scan, and it is a web app that acts as a blockchain explorer. So what we can do here is see all the block, all the transactions, and all interactions with the blockchain, as blockchain is decentralized and basically public source of information. The blockchain that we chose to use is called Polygon. We chose it for the simple reason it gives ability to perform a lot of transactions for really low gas price. You can go and check. There is a site that compares blockchain gas prices by comparing how much it costs to transfer a USDT token. And while on Ethereum blockchain, it would cost you like 5 cents. Here it would be fractions of a penny. And because we want to submit lots of data for hundreds of millions of properties, we chose this blockchain. One of the things that exist on blockchains and what Ethereum has brought into Web3 world is a smart contracts. Smart contracts in itself, we can think about them as a computer programs. It is a code that is executed in decentralized fashion. That's why Ethereum and Ethereum compatible blockchains like Polygon is called world computer, because we have a program that is run on multiple computers and they agreed on the state of a program. We, as an Elephant protocol, will provide set of smart contracts. As of now, it is one. We might increase that amount, we might not. Set of smart contracts that will build the protocol and that oracles right now and eventually participants of real estate transactions will interact with. What I show you right now is an example of a transaction that we, as a Elephant prototype of DAO or administrators right now, that's how we assign an oracle. As Sufi mentioned earlier, right now we want to be able to manage you guys to make sure you all work on the same set of properties so that you all can reach consensus and we avoid situation when there is only 3 of you and one is working on Florida, the other one on California, and third one in Texas. So we can see an example of this transaction that I use my account and I send it to this smart contract, which is smart contract that represents our protocol. We will share later all the addresses of all smart contract. And we can see that input for this transaction is property CID, represented as this unclear set of symbols, and oracle address, which I assigned to other address that would act like an oracle. So what is this property CID and what is CID First, CID stands for the content identifier that is assigned inside the IPFS. IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System. This is essentially a decentralized network that would act like a file system, where participants can connect to the network and can host the files or be a gateway for the others. And in case node of the system doesn't have a file, it will go through all the peers in the system till it finds a file. One of the cool usage of the IPFS in decentralization is Turkey and Wikipedia. Turkey government banned the Wikipedia, and the way guys restored access to it, they published it to the IPFS, and you cannot block it anymore. So good thing about the CID and why it is very useful in Elephant protocol is that it is derived from the content hash and therefore derived from the file content itself. So different oracles and different parties uploading same content to the IPFS will get same CID. So if you take a look at logs and what you would do as an oracle, looking for properties that are assigned to you, you would look to this, what is called blockchain events. You can read more about this later on offline. We can see in this event two fields, essentially. We have oracle and oracle address, so you will be looking for your address. And we have property CID, which is byte representation of the CID. So I have quickly built a tool that allows us to decode this property CID, its byte representation to the actual CID and actual identifiers that can be used on IPFS. This tool will be shared with you as well, even though it is 20 lines of code. So then we can use this CID to retrieve the data from the IPFS. I'm using IPFS CLI right now, even though the whole point of IPFS is that there are lots of entry points to IPFS. There's IPFS.io website, there's a lot of gateways. I will use IPFS CLI for that. So I will use IPFS cat is a command to retrieve a file content. And when I execute it, I see a content which contains partial identifier and actual address. This is what Sufi referred previously as a root CID. So this CID right now will act kind of like as an identifier for this property, and information, the content that is stored here, it is enough for you to retrieve information about this property. So if you take a look at this one, for example, we primarily focus on two fields at the start. We look at county name and we look at parcel identifier. So what you typically would do, if you would go to the, you would search for Palm Beach County, and then you would look for appraisal website, appraisal website.
Just one thing to just do. This is in that intelligent agent. The knowledge that actually Mykyta just had in terms of you go, because like, how do you know it's actually, you know, Palm Beach even has a website, and then there is an appraisal. The entire purpose of the AI agent is basically it's obviously, yeah, you just say the county goes and start from the web. So it's ultimately the AI agent land here. So as a result, you don't need to know where the basically the website is for, because right now it's called appraisal. Another actually website for county, the Orange County might be something else. But that AI agent is basically eliminate that discovery per se, or that knowledge, and it discovered itself. Sorry, but it's basically
Just one question, just to confirm, is this?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just to confirm, this is different from the MLS information, right?
Yeah, this is public information that it's basically every single county in the United States obligated by law to just basically put here. This is where ultimately house the title and deed information, which says you own the house. So make it legally, it has to be there because it's a legal document. And all the transfer and all the mortgages and everything else is recorded at the courthouse for the county. So again, public information has nothing to do with MLS.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I will add here that it's even better than the MLS. One of the experience we had when we were building valuation model to evaluate properties, We compared one of the properties, and it had huge difference in our valuation and Zillow valuation, for example. After our research, we found out that MLS has incorrect square footage, and therefore price is incorrect, versus this data on county website is certified by the government, and MLS data is just hand typed, so it contains a whole bunch of errors.
Yeah. So Eric, really, that gets at the core of this, which is because all this data is on these fragmented sites and not searchable, and no API and so on and so on. Without it, the agents, real estate agents, on a one-off basis, every time they sell a house, essentially hand type into the MLS. And usually what they're doing is copying the prior MLS entry. They don't even really understand how to come here to the source of truth. So the MLS is essentially a poor man's error-prone representation. And the agents make a lot of money just having over time manually typed it in, and now kind of sitting on top of that centralized database. And so with this approach, where we've turned the data collection into effectively a mining exercise, we can put all of this perfect, truly source of truth data on chain, and therefore be available to anyone and open. And that's where the value of, part of the value of the token is this thing that people today monetize in a centralized way, we monetize in a decentralized way.
Awesome. Thanks. And +1 on the MLS data being inaccurate. I agree.
Yeah, it's incomplete and inaccurate and just good enough. But why be good enough when we can have perfect? Okay.
Okay. So let's continue. So what we would do is first try to use this parcel identifier, get the actual data, and we'll use something like search. We got lucky. Parcel identifier is enough for this case. And essentially what we would do next as a process, take this HTML parcel of this, and after that map into the data structure that will be provided. The next step after you have it done, and you have, I need to stay here for a little on. The format of the data will be provided by us later on, and all of the way it will be provided is as stub files, and I can show you example of a stub file here. For example, I have it. It will be perfectly crafted the JSON in a canonical format with all keys that are required for the specific data group and values as a null. And what is a data group? Because the way this will work is when you retrieve all of this data and map it into the correct fields, you would go to the same smart contract that we used to assign in Oracle and invoke other function with, which is called submit data. And this function accepts you to provide 3 inputs to it. Property CID, which we got from the assignment, data group CID, which I will come back later, and data CID itself. So what data CID means? It means that when you fill this file with the actual data, you put it into the IPFS and you retrieve the CID. And because CID is derived from the content itself, when you and 2 other oracles upload same content, you will get same CID.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, I can imagine case sensitivity, like I can imagine some of the values having like variable cases and stuff. Is that all standardized too?
Yeah, that's what will be provided in the CLI. We will provide a way to standardize this, and also we will describe it as a part of a protocol. So we will use something called canonical JSON, which is a predictable way to serialize data to the JSON. It takes care about sorting and stuff like that. And also it is another reason why we came up with these stub files, because we want, if you didn't found the data or data is not applicable for this case, we want you to submit it as a null. So all oracles will submit not existing data as a null, and as a result, we will came up with the same hash.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Yes, and that's how the consensus will be reached. So smart contract will save submissions from different oracles, and in the moment for same property, same hash of data is submitted, it will emit the event, same way we saw the event of assignment to the oracles, that for this portion of data, consensus is reached and this data is certified and can be used. Because there are a lot of information about the property, as we saw, a whole bunch of data points. And as Eric mentioned, change in one property value or one comma change the whole hash, and therefore we will not be able to reach consensus. What we came up is splitting the data into those data groups. So even if for assessed value, let's say because of the comma consensus is not reached, you as a set of oracles still can reach consensus on something simpler and that has less error rate, like address or bedroom and bathroom count. Therefore, for this data group, CID or seed, is actually the seed of this stub files that I showed you before. So we will store those stub files on the IPFS, and seed of these files will be used as identifier for the data groups. So it will give us two benefits. We are not using names but IDs instead. And second one, but more important one, we will have reference to schema as a part of the data. So this would simplify validation of the data and so on and so forth.
Quick question. So are you saying that it's possible to create different levels of, like, it's possible to add to the blockchain a minimal level of information for the property, or like there's a range up until like a fully detailed set of information, and you can submit however much information that you have? Is that accurate?
Yes and no. At the same time, we have this data group, so you can submit data only for this data group. Let's take this as an example. It is a real example of one of the data groups that contains bedroom and bathroom count. You can create a parser that will parse only this data, and you will submit only this data. Therefore, you will be rewarded only for this data. But you cannot, let's say, create a parser that will parse only bedroom count and not bathroom count, because what will end up happening, other oracles will parse all of the data and provide bathroom count as well. Well, your data doesn't have it, so you will not reach consensus and will not get rewarded. So
it makes sense to me that it's an incremental thing where you either want to get all of or none of the data for a particular group. I'm just wondering, would it make any sense for people to start off with a minimal level of information? Well, I guess first of all, is there a match between, like, if somebody collects the maximum amount of information and somebody else collects the minimum, is there a match there, or are those like, is it possible for the person who only collected the minimum amount of information to get gas only for that portion of the data?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that you need to consider. Number one is basically the data that we are initially releasing the group is the data that exists on the county. So if you are writing this script and just getting the information, it just kind of doesn't make sense to get only a partial and just bring it down. You just bring maximum. So the first recommendation is you want to make these trips to actually to the county data just one time. And in the initial one, eventually what's going to happen is you need to maintain your ownership of the future gas or the right for receiving the gas. Two things that is important. The more groups are associated to you that you have reached consensus, the higher the gas. So there is a maximization actually from a reward perspective that you want to worry about. The second part of that is basically you want to make the complication of going and bringing data lower, but at the same time, for you to maintain your ownership, sometimes there's one piece of data element in one group is changed. So you do need to actually have crawlers that actually it's continuously looking for the changes on the website. And then when you notice, like as an example, there is a bedroom change, you would change only the bedroom, but the rest of the information needs to be there because it's actually the hash needs to be maintained, and you bring that in. So there are a couple of things that needs to be considered when you're doing that. But as a POC, if you're trying to do that, the answer is yes. You can just bring one group, and basically, if the other team members, they're doing one group, you reach consensus, and for that property, there will be the final data that is associated to the one group related to the U2 as the 3 oracles. That is possible, but not actually recommended because it's just it doesn't really solve any problem, especially if you approach this with an AI agent, which we are recommending, because at that point, the AI agent can actually go and just get every data element that exists on the county, bring it down. Even though you might actually bring more and it's not allocated inside the groups, you want to bring them down. You want to have it in your possession, because tomorrow, if you extend with 10 additional groups that it wasn't in the original one, we've done our best to make sure that pretty much all the data that is mapped, but that's something that is needs to be optimized independent. Does that make sense, Eric?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't suggesting I would intend to collect a subset of the information, just wondering if I have a parsing problem or something and I've only got some of it and I try to push it up, is that going to be like partially successful? Or
if as long as it's the integrity of the group is maintained, you can have one group for the root SID to be posted, and if that one group it's reached consensus with the corresponding groups with the other oracles, it gets minted.
Yeah, but what it happen if we have already 3 oracles who have already consensus on something, and there is a fourth one which came and he has some more groups?
So at this point, nothing, because it's allocated to you guys. In general, if 3 have consensus and someone bring in a new data, it gets posted, right? Let's say we don't have the concept of allocation. It does not reach consensus because now the other versions doesn't match. And if 2 out of the 3 oracles, they wake up and they decide to go bring an update, and assuming the update is correct, and they bring the same amount of data, what's going to happen is now there is a new alliance being formed, because times matter in that case. So the new oracle, which basically detected the update the fastest, the other 2 oracles that they basically reacted to the update the fastest, they become ultimately the owner of basically that group, and the future gases that it's being rewarded is going to go to that 3, and the one that it was the lagger it loses its the ownership from a future gas.
Yeah.
Initially, when the first time is there, that reward token, it has a different life cycle, because the first data set is that is important. But even for that, there is some staking that is going to be in place, that if from the point that you got the token and you have staked it, you lose your position, you might lose that reward as well. But at this point, that's not being coded in the smart contract, and it's something that we will do in the future. Right now, there are only 3, because these specific root SIDs is going to be allocated to basically the 3 addresses that predeterministically you guys communicate to us, and we put it on the smart contract.
Okay.
Any other questions? They're all great questions, guys. That's you guys.
I had a quick comment, just so it could be ruled out if it doesn't make sense. Like, it feels like potential, if there were like a wayback machine for all of this data to be able to go back and like non-authoritatively look at the information and be able to like adjust scrapers for like changes in formatting and stuff. I feel like that would be an asset that might be
because
helpful.
Every time the data is put on the IPFS, a hash gets created.
And I'm saying like from the source. I'm saying like if the source, I'm not disputing anything, just that if there were, if at this point we're saying it's up to the oracles to detect changes to these websites, and all I'm saying is like it might be interesting if we were to collectively create a Wayback Machine, but for this particular data, and share that amongst the oracles. That would reduce like the workload. It might be an interesting optimization.
The data by definition has the history. So when you go to the county website, it has all of what is considered source of truth, historical transactions.
Sure. I'm just trying to say,
I think what you're saying is you want a template to allow for you to basically a crawler that it can go and just basically detect changes and just give you a starting point for that. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, well, I'm saying that I can create a crawler that's going to go and do all these things, but also that if we had a shared crawler that was watched, if all of us were having a shared thing that we're watching the websites as like a shared cost, as opposed to us all building it, then we could be reacting to the output of that thing individually as oracles. And I'm saying that might be an interesting optimization, but maybe not right now.
It is. By definition, as a blockchain, we can do the only thing that we own and we can run are the things that is on the blockchain. There's no place. And by definition, blockchain, it can look outside, right? It's just basically it.
The oracles could have a shared resource if we wanted to.
So there is no resource. We can create, similar to the CLI, basically the starting point from a core as an open source, but there is nothing from a runtime perspective that does exist in the current construct. We are contemplating the future potential of actually have a node that is an Oracle node, but it's still not vetted completely, which that allows for a centralized runtime place to be able to actually execute things. But right now we are relying on actually Oracle independence that they can do whatever they want. Us as an authority to provide kind of cheat sheet to just say these are the accelerators that you can actually use, and then ultimately the platform. If we decide that actually it is meritorious to basically create a runtime place. Some other Oracle networks, they've done that, like Chainlink and everybody else, but that's being contemplated. Your point is absolutely well taken, but it's something that it's going to actually take a little bit for us to decide.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that it makes sense for you guys to do that. It's more like once you give me a Slack channel with the other oracles, maybe we'll decide to do it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you guys, as oracles, definitely.
Exactly.
You can collaborate on anything.
It feels good to not be under your purview. I'm not suggesting that. Just it was a thought.
Makes sense. Amazing. Mykyta?
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it from me for today.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so we'll basically create Mladen. We're gonna create a Slack channel for now. We're gonna add this group plus actually Andrea, and then we'll decide. I would probably anybody who participated, we might just actually add it to the channel because they showed the interest. But at the same time, I don't want the channel to become another place that I push people when it's open, they can go join, but since it's a Slack, it's a kind of invitation only for now. But we'll do that, and then basically, so that will happen today. We'll post some of the links and everything else in that, so you can go take a look at the code, Eric and Mladen, and then what I would recommend, if you guys give 24 hours, talk to each other, three of you, figure out if this is something that you want to do, and then give us the information that I asked for, which is kind of your address, your consensus of, let's start with, 10,000 property. California, it's actually, there was a lot of property there, and just some of the big counties, if you start with like, LA County, it has like, I think, 5 million property. It's big, yeah. So those are the things that you need to talk amongst yourself, and just let us know your capacity, your addresses, and then in the next 2-3 days, we basically put the root sits on the chain, update the Elephant CLI, make sure the smart contract has those property assigned to your actually addresses, and we can actually get it going. It would be great to basically, for us, for the next call, have you three just kind of be the first oracles that they actually have minted some of these properties. I think that's a good claim of success for you guys, and we are here to support you. Like anything that you need, we'll give you guys our experience to make it easier. And as you see, like we put the agents there, everything that we do to just basically accommodate that, our goal is we package it up, make it open source, and just throw it out there for you guys to have. I think that's a good first step.
Yeah, I need to get to Andrea. He's on a business trip this week. I'm not sure is he back tomorrow or on Sunday. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious. Also, if you guys have any estimate of like how long it would take somebody to go from 0 to minting, I'm just curious how many hours
It's
for like a good engineer who's never worked on this kind of thing before.
Yeah, we basically there are two aspects of it. I have one data point I can share. The other one don't have data point, which is kind of for us. We did that. Two things we had, especially at our disposal. Number one is basically we do have a hands-on experience with a lot of actually the tools that we talked about. So that's why you need to put that into perspective where you are better than us, actually worse than us. And the second one is we understand the data. Like that knowledge is basically ours is deep. Like we just basically, eat and breathe this data. For us to do the Lee County, which has 500,000. Basically, it was like a 3-4 days for someone to write a script and kind of map the data, and then it took us probably an extra 2 to 3 days to basically get consensus, because some of the mistakes we are verifying, like the Mykyta was talking about the null effect, which is like we didn't reach consensus because there was no agreement between three of us that actually we should, put null or just empty and things like that. So we are trying to solve that by just putting all of that into a more structured template. So that 2-3 days consensus, I think for you guys going to be the same. The first 3-4 days to just do this script, and everything else might varies. But we started from 0, so I think the knowledge basically alignment by providing the scraping tools and the AI agent would put you guys, I would say, at par. So that being said, I think for you guys to be able to do 500,000 property, 3 of you, and reach consensus in 1 week is reasonable.
Cool. To me, currently, it's sounding optimistic just because like available time and guests and stuff. So I just want to temper your expectations, but I'm interested. And I'll spend some time.
Yeah, we just, you guys, there is like at this point is for the oracles, there is no, it's just basically you guys gotta have the variety of speeds, and there is no, like, we are not holding anyone to our speed, because it's just, as I mentioned, it's just, there's a lot of deeper knowledge. The only thing we've done to be able to make sure that we are doing our part is like the tools. So the most important thing is, if you guys don't want to get into a basically kind of reinventing the wheels, these tools that we are putting there, it just basically go through that. Just like go run this AI agent. You're gonna face some problems. You'll figure out. You get this AI agent running, and you don't have that much of actually that much of a wasted time from the county to the data and mapping that, you might just, very effective AI agent, it's actually can bring down the same data set for actually without doing anything in one day, right? It's basically, but you need to make sure that, you run that executable. If there is any issues related to the headless browser, solve that. Like those are the things that is going to be there, but the knowledge is going to accumulate. But those are starting points, they're perfect accelerators because we try to put our brain and all of our knowledge into that code. So hopefully that kind of transfer to you guys pretty fast. And then the whole Elephant CLI, it's pretty much obfuscate all the blockchainy stuff that you need to do. Like without that, you need to understand that, how you query the blockchains, the way you go from all the blocks to this point to be able to assemble the data changes in the a smart contract. Like all of that is being obfuscated in the Elephant CLI. Eventually, you want to learn how sausage being made, but that's another thing. So it becomes a little bit of if you are a good hands-on, basically coder, it's debugging and running these tools to be able to get it to work versus to just from ground zero learn every single one of these actually concepts from scratch, and that gives you time to be able to learn after the fact. So that's been our kind of at least our contribution or thought process to be able to help you guys.
And,
Cool.
and Eric, the goal is, after sort of the initial learning period, that really this actually does feel like Bitcoin mining, which is your role as the human. Oracle is, you buy the computer, you pay for the electricity, you go to the GitHub and sort of run the code. But that at the margins, these tools are so polished that it's really like a background process as opposed to n number of oracles all over the world, different backgrounds, different knowledge bases, like re-understanding and reinventing the world. So as you go through, keep in mind that's where we're going, and you can help us, such as your kind of the Wayback Machine concept. What are the tools that get us closer to like a pure mining out, steady state?
Cool. And I appreciate all the tools. I'm sure it'll make it a lot faster. At the same time, if there's any content, particularly YouTube stuff that you guys found useful or that you come across around blockchain, personally, I feel like I don't need any more AI content in my life. But if there's any blockchain content that's relevant, even from the distant past, if it's particularly useful, once we have a Slack, it'd be cool to have a library of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's actually on the website when we we updated, there is a link to a bot, and we have actually put all the books, all the designs, everything that actually we have studied to get to this point. It is in there with actually series of starter prompts, I would call it, which basically allows you to kind of navigate it. The things like, I want to learn these concepts. What are the 5 things that I need to know like immediately? And then it's not a generic one, it's a specific to the sources that we have and then the assets. So you would use that basically as the go-to place to be able to build your knowledge. So we'll basically release that shortly in the next the couple of days, and is accessible, open, and you can actually go through that through that process. So this way, all of our knowledge would manifest itself as a bot and as an AI agent that you can just basically watch, and the collateral is embedded as a knowledge base in those bots.
I get that. That's just how the information can awesomely be exposed. At the same time, if there is like YouTube's and actual long form stuff, I might watch it. So feel free to send it along.
Yeah, one of the things I would recommend if you never did anything, never even hold any of crypto, I would recommend you to buy some for like $5 or some minimum amount and withdraw it to your personal wallet. It would give you already all the essential understanding. You'll have to figure them out to understand blockchain and
Cool.
transactions.
I tried that and failed like 5 years ago. Do you have a particular wallet, or is there any technology that you would suggest, or the vendors for any of these things?
As an exchange provider, you can use Binance, since they're the biggest one. And
Okay.
for a wallet, I recommend Unstoppable Wallet, since they're open source and have reproducible builds. So as long as you don't lose your seed phrase, your funds will be safe.
Unstoppable wallet. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. All right. See you later.
All right.
Okay.
See you guys next week.